episode, I want to talk to you about the label of narcissistic personality disorder through an internal family systems lens. And the reason why I want to talk to you about that is because in the trauma world, in the counseling world, psychology world, there seems to be a real big divide around narcissism. There are many people like myself who look at research, evidence-based research, and can see that there are no cures for a narcissist. Equally, there is medication that can help a narcissist, but that does not mean they can go on and have a healthy relationship with somebody else. It just means that them living their life may be marginally better. And this is the key here. And this is where I see, and I end up having lots of debates with people about this, because I'm always still, even with the narcissist, coming from a compassionate place in understanding how they are brought about. So we know a narcissist isn't born, they are created from their childhood. Now, a narcissist is abusive. And what I'm about to share with you absolutely does not excuse their behavior. Absolutely not. Abuse is abuse, and a narcissist is an abuser, and there is no getting away from that. But the reason why I like sharing educational pieces like this is so many people who have had contact with a narcissist will receive the narcissist behavior as in some way a reflection of them. And it isn't. It absolutely isn't a reflection of you. But if you've got your own self-worthiness wounds from your childhood, you receive the narcissist behavior that in some way they're treating you like that because you're not good enough, you're worthless, you're unlovable, you don't matter. And that's what causes that activation for you. So I want to talk to you about what I believe the term narcissist means. So we know in the DSM, so the Diagnostical and Statistical Manual, which is what mental health professionals use to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder, they list 9 traits. So they have 9 traits. And if the person has 5 or more, then they have narcissistic personality disorder. Now, my issue with that is a number of things. 1, we're not actually looking at root cause. 2, 9 traits, only 9 traits, which means we're really putting somebody in a box, because what if there's loads of other traits and it isn't on those, and then they're not a narcissist then, okay? So what I teach in my narcissistic trauma-informed coaching certification is actually there's over 35 traits or protector parts of a narcissist, ranging from all kinds of behaviors: manipulation, coercion, anger, many, many different elements from all of that, financial abuse, lots of traits for a narcissist. Now, if we look at the internal family systems model again, so we have our true self, that person who is calm and connected and compassionate, the essence of who we all are. We have that wounded younger part of ourselves that happens in our childhood for whatever reason. So a narcissist has these self-worthiness wounds as well, very, very deep, deep self-worthiness wounds. And the narcissist system then has all these protector parts coming up, the traits to protect that narcissist, the individual, from feeling the pain of that self-worthiness wound. Now, how I look at narcissistic personality disorder is not a diagnosis. It's not pathologizing all of that. Actually, for me, narcissist is like really an umbrella term for an individual's protector parts that are narcissistic, that are abusive. And it can be a whole host of traits that can come up for that individual. So rather than as labeling with somebody with a disorder, for me, it's about those protector parts, because they're there for a narcissist, that individual, to stop feeling the pain of that self-worthiness wound. But they are so strong within a narcissist system, within that individual person's system, that all of those protector parts are really like the 9 traits in the DSM. But really, for me, there's over 35 of those. So when I think of an individual who is a narcissist, how I see that person is their protector parts are narcissistic, to protect that individual from feeling the pain of that self-worthiness wound. And because those parts are so strong in their system, they're on another level. I mean, let's be honest. They can be coercive, manipulative, angry, cheating, financial abuse. I mean, there's a lot. I teach, like I say, over 35 in my coaching certification. It's not just the 9 listed in the DSM. So for me to label somebody from the DSM with narcissistic personality disorder, what we're doing is we're kind of medicalizing it. We're almost excusing the behavior then, because it's kind of like, well, they have a disorder, they've got a personality disorder, they can't help it. And they've even tried to use that in some court on occasion. But actually, the term for me, narcissist, this is why I forget diagnosis. It's not about getting this medical diagnosis. And if you don't have a medical diagnosis, how can you say your mother, your father, your friend, your partner, your ex-partner is a narcissist? That, for me, I think is so disrespectful for people like you and I who have had that experience with a narcissist, if they don't actually have a diagnosis. Because remember, to actually get a diagnosis, what needs to happen? You need to have somebody going, hey, I think there's something wrong with me. I'm going to go in and get a diagnosis for that. How many narcissists do you know that are going to do that? Yeah, not many, right? So if we look at the narcissist then through that IFS lens, they have a true self. They create that self-worthiness wound in their childhood for whatever reason. That could be golden child. It could be scapegoat. It could be abuse, neglect. And we actually don't know, because remember, the starting point here could be very similar for a codependent, for instance, for people like you and I who have been attracting narcissists. And we don't actually know the exact reason in the brain from a neuroscience perspective, what makes somebody go on and be a narcissist and what makes someone go on and be a codependent. Because again, for me, the codependent and the narcissist are merely names we are giving to the collective term of protector parts an individual has. Now, with a codependent, we can work on those protector parts to get to that self-worthiness wound, because there's ownership, there's responsibility, there's a recognition of that. With a narcissist, if I went and said to my ex-husband, for instance, listen, I know all of your behaviors are because you're protecting yourself from feeling the pain of something that happened in your childhood, because I know what his childhood was like. Wow. I don't think his response would be very good, and it would probably end with off. Okay. I don't think he'd really take that. The reason he would say he behaves in those ways is, of course, because of me. There's no ownership, there's no subjective distress, doesn't understand that his behavior has that level of impact on somebody else, because it's all about protection for him. That's his system's intention. The impact of that intention, obviously, is abuse perpetrated onto somebody else, not because of somebody else, but onto somebody else. So when we think of a narcissist like that, and this is exactly how I think of a narcissist now, all the research I have done, which is vast, believe me, all the trainings I've done, and this is why I love IFS, because it's not about pathologizing everybody. And even if I actually look at the DSM, I would say probably the majority of disorders, and this is just my opinion, you may not agree. My opinion is the majority of those disorders that are listed as diagnosis in the DSM are all labels that we are using for an individual's protector parts. Think about borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety even. These are labels of symptoms. For me, protector parts. What's the root cause of all of that? And when we can get maybe to the root cause, is that something we can work with that individual? The sad part of a narcissist is we can't do that. Not because I wouldn't want to, because of course, if I could stop someone abusing somebody perpetually in their life, then yeah, absolutely. But I can't help somebody who doesn't acknowledge that they need to be helped. It doesn't mean I can't see why they behave the way that they do, but it doesn't excuse their behavior of abuse. So we have to focus our attention then on a number of things. One, helping those who are affected by a narcissist. And the other is education of how to parent, of how to be that better person. Because if we know a narcissist is created normally by their parents, what is going on with the parents then with their behaviors to then treat a child in a certain way for them then to have these narcissistic protector parts coming up. So if we can educate how to parent, how to love, how to show security and connection in a non-judgmental way, that each child is just amazing for who they are, then we're going to lower the incidence then of the number of narcissists, people with protector parts that are narcissistic, down the line. That for me, that's where I'm going to spend my energy in doing all of this, because I can't help a narcissist as much as I would like to, because they're not going to acknowledge that there is anything wrong. If they do, then they're not a narcissist. Now, don't get me wrong, many of us may have little protector parts that are narcissistic now and again. We all have that. But a narcissist will have lots of these protector parts over all aspects of their life, pretty much on a daily basis. And this is what I teach in my program. So it's really important for us to acknowledge who we can help. Why do we feel the way that we do? But still in a compassionate way. It's not about the diagnosis. It's about understanding who we can help, but not excusing anybody's behavior.